of a message from the Lord. Hallelujah. Oh, we need to hear a word from the Lord today. If ever we needed to hear a word from the Lord, today is the day we need to hear a word from the Lord. I've been really feeling this sermon series in me for a while. You know, we're studying Jeremiah on Wednesday night. We watched part 1 of the Jeremiah movie, and we're going to watch part 2 next Wednesday night. And you know, Jeremiah is famous for saying it felt like fire. Shut up in his boat. Now, the sermon series we're getting ready to begin, I don't know if it's going to be emotional when it goes in. But when it comes out, when we start seeing more power in our lives and more victory in our lives, when we start living with more peace, when we see ourselves more like overcomers, that's when the joy comes out. I want to take my time getting into this because we're going to spend some time with this sermon series, and I want us to know that that's how the word ought to be. You know, we're living in a time now when everything is quick. You know, you can go on the internet and get the answer to a question, just put it in. It might not be the right answer, but you can just ask the internet a question now. What will the weather be tomorrow? It'll give you an answer. Might not be the right answer, it'll give you an answer. Everything is so fast, and we want church to be fast. Get us all fixed up. But this isn't a fast sermon series. We're going to marinate in this thing. You know, I talk about Sister Black cooking all the time. She knows how to crock pot some things. You know, that lady can put some meat in the crock pot, and when you pull it out, the bone, the meat just fall off the bone. You marinate it in there. Get all those flavors and you know, all the ingredients and the spices and the herbs in there. And it gets all mixed together over time, doesn't it? You can't do that in a microwave. You can't do it in a microwave. It takes time. And we're going to marinate in this sermon series because we need to. This sermon series has a theme verse. Now, I've used this theme verse before, but we're going deeper. Everybody says deeper. We're going deeper. Theme verse is Matthew 13. Verse 30. Matthew 13, verse 30. Let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. Series. This is the sermon series title. Living with difficult people. Living with difficult people. This parable makes the point that God doesn't have a problem with us living with difficult people. He says, let the wheat and the tares grow together. That's right. You know, it's time that we quit trying to clean up the church because there's going to always be wheat and tares in the church. Let me tell you about your choir. You're going to have wheat and tares on your choir. Let me tell you about your usher board. You're going to have wheat and tares on your usher board. Let me tell you about your church school class. Even in your church school class, there's going to be wheat and tares in your church school class. And God wants us to understand that we have to be able to live where there are tares. We have to be able to live where there are weeds. We have to be able to live surrounded by difficult people. I want to change that word live because some people think live means to survive. We have to be able to flourish. Flourish. Be prosperous. Grow in the midst of weeds. Howard Thurman tells the story about the daphne. When he was in Africa, he heard of this plant called the daphne. And the daphne is known for this beautiful flower. it by the smell. I said, people, insects, insects. And this plant is just known for its beauty. So Howard Thurman, in one of his trips, he got to actually go to Africa, and he met a man who had one in his garden. And he goes to this garden and he says, this is my Daphne. And it was just this woody stubble plant. And Howard Thurman said, is that great plant I heard about? He said, yes. He says, well, you must have messed up. It's not beautiful at all. It doesn't have an aroma. Something's wrong. You have it in the wrong soil. He said, no. This is the same soil that's in the jungle. He said, well, the sunlight must be different. Maybe it's used some more direct light. Nope. Same sunlight as in the jungle. He said, well, why does your plant look like this? He said, well, you see, in the jungle, the Daphne has to do all it can to survive. It's surrounded by all these competing plants, and they force it to go into the one mode of survival that's most important for all plants, reproduction. So it produces the greatest flower to attract insects and the greatest aroma to attract insects. But when you take this plant and put it in my garden, it doesn't have any competition. There are no weeds. And so it doesn't grow into much of anything. You know, God knew that was true about the human spirit. And so he put you on that job where there's a bunch of weeds. He put you in a family that's got a bunch of weeds. Even in your peer group, there's a bunch of weeds. And he said, let the wheat and the tare grow together. That's a thing that scientists call the RQ. This is introduction to the sermon series. The RQ, the relationship quotient. It's sort of like the IQ, except for it deals with relationships. And it said this is a measure of a person's ability to understand his or her personal relationship with other people. The higher RQs are those people who are most likely to understand the dynamics that are taking place and to take ownership for those dynamics and to manage it. Unfortunately, most of us are blind. We are blind to the things we bring to a relationship. And we're blind to the things other people bring into a relationship or an encounter. And because we're blind to these things, we don't manage them. We respond with our emotions, or we respond non-reflectively. And then the end result is usually the wrong result. We speak before we think. We act before we think. And then we find ourselves in a bind. This whole sermon series is designed to help us improve our RQ. It's time to pray. Father, we ask that you send your word today. Send it with love, send it with power, send it under the unction of your Holy Spirit. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. First sermon. Toxic. Y'all don't know what that is, do you? Toxic people. None of you have ever met one, have you? Toxic people. 1 Samuel 16, 19 through 23, and chapter 18, 10 through 11. 1 Samuel 16, 19 through 23, chapter 18, 10 through 11. Wherefore Samuel sent messengers unto Jesse and said, send me David thy son, which is with the sheep. And Jesse took an ass laden with bread and a bottle of wine and a kid, and sent them to David his son unto Saul. And David came to Saul and stood before him, and he loved that he is Saul. And Saul loved him greatly, and he became his Saul, his armor bearer. And Saul sent to Jesse, saying, let David, I pray thee, stand before me, for he has found favor in my sight. And it came to pass, when the evil spirit from God was upon Saul, that David took a harp and played with his hand. So Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil spirit departed him. Chapter 18, verse 10. And it came to pass on the morrow that the evil spirit from God came upon Saul, and he prophesied in the midst of the house. And David played with his And David avoided out of his presence twice. Y'all got that story? Amen. David and Saul were in a toxic relationship. Saul was a toxic personality. Saul begins this relationship. David is minding his own business, taking care of sheep, and Saul sends for David. Saul is the initiator. Then the scriptures tell us Saul loved David. Say that with me. Saul loved David. That's important. Saul loved David. Yes, he did. Saul loved David and wanted to spend time with David. So he made David his armor bearer so that David would be close to Saul. And David gave gifts to Saul, and Saul blessed David in the gifts. But there was another problem. Saul was jealous of David. Oh, Saul was jealous of David. And even though David was much younger, Saul wanted to be like David. There was a dual relationship between them. Saul was a person of great power. David had little power. Saul was a man that wanted to be like David. David had little desire to be like Saul. These are all classic warning signs that they were getting ready to set up a toxic relationship. Now let's just look at this relationship between these two for just a minute. Saul makes David his armor bearer. And David plays this soothing music for Saul when he's melancholy. And yet that same Saul throws a javelin at him. Now think. We're not just talking about David and Saul. There's some people who love you and love me. And they tell us they love us. And they act like they love us. And when we least expect it, guess what they do? They throw a javelin at us. They go to the boss or the supervisor and say, you know, she clocked in late. Wait a minute, you love me, don't you? I watched on the job, there was a person who was an assistant. And always talking so nice to the supervisor. And every time that supervisor made a mistake, she made sure everybody saw it. And then I go to the job one time, it wasn't my job, I go to the job and I look, and guess what? The supervisor was fired. And the assistant was the supervisor. And I said, that woman threw a javelin. And unlike David, the javelin hit the mark. Let me tell you what Saul does. Saul gives David his daughter. We didn't discuss that in the text. I'm just trying to show you this relationship. Saul says, marry my daughter. David marries the girl. David falls in love with the girl. The girl is David's world. She rocked his world. So guess what Saul does? He takes that daughter and he gives her to another man to marry. Yes, I'm talking about toxic people. There's some toxic people out there. Saul invites David to eat at his table. And now when the king invites you, you don't say no. You gotta come. This is your seat, David. I want you in that seat every time we have a formal meal. You sit right there. He's gotta come. Guess what Saul does? He plans to kill the guy that's sitting in that seat. He plans to kill the guy that sits in that. That's the seat he gave David. Oh, y'all got to get into this thing. You got to understand what's going on. Publicly, Saul admires David. Privately, Saul's trying to kill David. They have this strange relationship. This strange relationship. It gets to the point that Saul is chasing David all over the countryside. Amen. Chasing him. And it gets so bad, David has to pretend. And then I even know he was pretending. He has to pretend that he lost his mind. You know, if we let these toxic people have their way in our lives, we can lose our mind. Are you marinating? Start to marinate. 1 Samuel 21. And he changed his behavior before them, and fringed himself mad in their hands, and scrambled on the door of the gate, and let his spittle fall down upon his beard. David is acting like he lost his mind because Saul is running behind him. And that's why I said we have to not just live, but we got to learn how to flourish. Right. When we're surrounded by difficult people, we have to learn how to flourish when there's toxic people in our world, in our midst, because if not, we'll lose our mind. Yes. Oh, yeah. Let's marinate a little more. We're going to get to some rejoicing, but let's marinate a little more. Right. By definition, a toxic relationship is a relationship characterized by behavior on the part of the toxic partner that is emotionally and not infrequently physically damaging to the partner. In other words, if you're in a relationship where there's a person who is a poison to you, hurting you. Now we have to remember, Saul loved David. I didn't say they didn't love you. See, that's the thing that makes this so hard. Saul loved David hard, and Saul hurt David hard. That's how it works. If Saul hated David, David could have had his guard up all the time. You know, we used to talk about the difference between racism in the South and racism in the North. Racism in the South, we knew who hated us. When we saw the KKK sign, we knew what it meant. We saw the rebel flag, we knew what it meant. And we knew that if we went in there, we're with people who hate us. But when we went to the North, where there were no KKK signs, and then we didn't know what was going on. And even though we thought they loved us, they hated us. Saul loved David, and Saul hated David, hurt David, physically damaging and emotional. While a healthy relationship contributes to the self-esteem of both, a toxic relationship is damaging and drains the energy. Oh, y'all haven't been in this situation? Every time you get around the person, they just zap you. I'm the only person ever been around toxic people. You don't even want to be in their presence. They just zap you and they draw all your energy out of you. In a healthy relationship, there's mutual caring, respect, and compassion. But in a toxic relationship, everything evolves around one person. Oh, wait a minute. If it's all about him, it's all about her, it's all about the supervisor, it's all about the boss, if it's all about them, it's toxic. You know, if you're a good manager, you want to take care of your people and the job. want to spend some time marinating, some types. There are 15 types. This isn't Bible. I got this off the internet, but some of us can identify. 15 types of toxic relationships. Number one, there are controlling relationships. Number two, there are jealous partner relationships. Now, some of these are romantic and some are not. Saul was jealous for David, but they weren't romantic. They're completing partners. There's a negative thinking partner. No matter what you tell that partner, it's always going to get worse. It's going to get worse. There's a constant put down partner. You did good, but. You did good, but. Now there's a cheating partner. Now, I'm not just thinking sexually. I know you're thinking sexually. But there are partners who cheat. You know, let me tell you a constant we see. When you tell someone something in confidence, and they tell somebody else, they cheated on you. You thought you could go to them and say, you know, I got this problem with so-and-so, I need some help. And when they go right to so-and-so and say, guess what she said? They cheated on you. They took your pride and sacredness and shared it with another person. Cheating part. Lying part. Oh my goodness. Everything they say is a lie. I mean, you know, even when it doesn't make sense to tell a lie, they tell a lie. There's a secular song. My wife said she had not heard the words to it so clearly, but it's a secular song. And the song says, if I listen long enough to you, I'll believe everything you said is true. Knowing straightway that you lied to my face while I cry. You know, there's some folks that talk you into thinking that even the lies are true. Where you were last night, my car broke down and I ran out of money. But how come they saw your car and it was a car just like mine? But the license tag, oh, I lost my license tag last night. Somebody must have borrowed my license tag. But they said they saw you in my cousin's in town. And my cousin looked just like me. And that was my cousin in town in the bar. Baby, you know I'm telling the truth. And you sit there and you say, but he got the nerve to say that. It must be true. Must be true. Y'all have never encountered people like this. Abusive partners. You know, this whole deal is about abusive partners. But it can be emotional, it can be physical. The blaming partner, number 9. Let me get to number 10. The extremely insecure partner. Now that's a lot of our bosses. They know you can do their job. You train them for it. And they're insecure. And that insecurity is toxic. When they're trying to protect themselves from you moving up, it's David and Saul all over again. Here comes David to be the next king, and I'm going to do everything I can to stop him. Even though I love David. Demanding partner. Over the top perfectionists. That's a 12. Narcissistic. People in love with themselves. 13. 14. The competitive. Let me stop and say a minute. The competitive lover. Now in my notes, and we may pick it up, I can show you each of these in David and Saul's relationship. They're competitive. Saul killed his 1,000. David killed his 10,000. Competitive. You know, it really didn't matter. Saul was the king, but he couldn't let David have equal or even greater standing than him. And then the 15th is the manipulative part. Get you to do about anything. Oh, you know that type. They can get, before you know it, your boundaries, your margins, the things you say you would never do, you're doing them. Because they're experts at manipulation. Okay, let's get some good news in here. This is the introduction. Now, this is, you can say amen if I say something. I'm not telling you not to say amen, but we're going to marinate till this get in our spirit. Because we've been dealing with difficult people all our lives. And it's time we start to deal with them in a healthy way. So how do we deal with toxic people? Point one from David's life. David protected himself from Saul. David set a healthy boundary. Now, there's a book called Boundaries by a man named Cloud, and I recommend that you read it. But one of the problems we have is that we don't know how to set boundaries. We don't know how close to keep someone and how far to keep someone. And most of all, the hardest thing in our community is we haven't learned that two-letter word, no. Why do you think a 2-year-old learns that word, no? It's setting a boundary. I'm no longer a little R baby. I'm a toddler. No, you can't hold me all the time. No, I won't do everything you say. No, I won't go every place you go. Because I need a boundary so I can grow up. I'm a toddler now. No, no, no. And we need to learn how to say no. What David was ever able to do, he wrote in the Psalm. Psalm 91, he that dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. David knew how to find the secret place. Yeah. We have to have a realization inside of us that when I'm standing in the presence of God, I'm hiding under the wing of the Almighty. And it doesn't matter what you're doing or what you're saying or how you're acting. I'm insulated because I'm standing in the presence of God. We have to have that boundary. He said, I will say to the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress. In him will I trust. And look what David said. Surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. What he's getting at there is, when I learn how to walk in the presence of God, when I learn how to walk in the Spirit of God, I'm aware that there's some evil out there, and I know how to protect myself by keeping a safe distance. At one point, that safe distance meant for David to get up out of Saul's house and run. All right. Y'all hear me? Yeah. Some of these relationships are so bad. David heard that Saul wanted to kill him, and Jonathan was Saul's son, and Jonathan said, listen, I'm going to talk to my dad, and if it's true he wants to kill you, I'm going to shoot an arrow, and I'm going to shoot it way over your head. Right. But if it isn't, I'll shoot it close, and if I shoot it way over your head, get out of town, David. Somebody has to learn how to get up out of these relationships. Oh yes, that man's been talking that talk to you for a long time, but you better learn how to get out of town. How to say, I'm out of here. I'm going to my rock. I'm going to the secret place of the Most High. And you have to go there. Let me say something. We have to know how to get out of some of these toxic jobs. They're not paying you enough money for your hair to be falling out. They're not paying you enough money for you to be up late at night. They're not paying you enough money for not to be in your stomach 24/7. You gotta get a healthy boundary between you and that toxic personality. Oh, I'm preaching right. I'm preaching right. Now, the other thing while we're on this, we have to understand we can't leave every situation. Sometimes we have to learn how to put on the armor of God. Now, the part of the armor you need with toxic situations is called the shield of faith. Oh, how many ever been in one of those old tin roofs houses? I know none of y'all have. Oh, but back in the day, you know, when you go to those houses that had the tin roof, and you know, don't let a hailstorm or a good rainstorm occur. You hear that? You hear it bouncing over the fire, making all kind of noises. When we get that armor, and those toxic personalities get in our face, throwing on fire and dust, we put that shield up, and you hear that bouncing off the shield. You know, you hear it like a machine gun bouncing off the shield. They say, oh, you did so-and-so, bounce off the shield. Oh, you look like so-and-so, bounce off the shield. I'm going to tell you so-and-so, bounce off the shield. Oh, you have to know how to let it bounce off the shield. And you know what? That really gets those toxic personalities upset when they realize no matter what they say, it's not getting past the shield. So we're going to be together. It's going to be like this. With this boundary between us. And I need to say this. I keep focusing, and you're going to see me keep focusing on this. Part of the problem with the boundary is we got an antenna. A love antenna. And we know Saul loved David.
Yeah.
You know, people say, how come she's still with him? How come he's still with her? That woman did this to him, that woman did that to him. But let me tell you, after he done his mess, there's a honeymoon stage, and the antenna says, he really does love me. So when we do that healthy boundary, we also have to do that boundary against that love. And they do love. Saul loves David. Don't get over that. Saul loved David. And Saul hated David. It would have been easy. That person that's hurting you, that toxic person, they love you. At least they think they do. Now, it's not agape love. No. It's a desire. They desire to be with you. They think the world of you, even though they're killing you. Point 2. Are we marinated? Yeah. Oh, we kind of soaking in it? Yeah. Y'all want me to go fast? Soaking. Point 2. David reaped all of the benefits he could from a toxic relationship. Wait a minute, preacher. Did you wrote that? You wrote that in? Yeah. When I saw this thing, I went to my wife and said, look at this point. I don't usually show her sermons in advance. I said, look at this point. Look at this point. Look what David does. David goes into Saul's house. He is Jesse's 7th boy. If you know anything about Jewish tradition, David wasn't going to get anything. It goes to the oldest boy, and then it kind of goes down from there. And by the time you get to the 7th boy, he'll be good just to have a job working on Jesse's farm. He wasn't anybody. He was the little shepherd. His daddy didn't even bring him out to meet the prophet when the prophet was looking for the next king. David had no possibilities of going anywhere in this world. So God puts David with this toxic personality, Saul. And by the end of the situation, David's the king. David got, and let me tell you, I told you that daughter, David gets that daughter back too. He got his daughters, he got his family, he got his palace, he got his money, he got everything. He took everything. Sometimes when we're in this toxic situation, we need to stop and say, what is God giving me through this toxic situation? The Bible says he has caused all things to work together for our good. You know why David is sitting there running from Saul? He's learning how to be a king. He's learning how the courtroom works. He's learning the chain of command. He's learning how to talk like a king. He's learning how to walk like a king. He's learning how to be like a king, how to dress like a king. And then when he gets rid of this toxic relationship, he becomes a king. Oh, you want to grow in your job? Take everything from that boss. Learn everything you can. When you're done, have everything. Have it working for you. Say, yes, come report to me in the morning. Don't give them retribution. You just be, you know, when David took over, he didn't mess over Saul's hair. He took care of Saul's hair. Because he realized that even though that man was a toxic personality, God used that toxic personality to make him king. When I was in my enlisted days, I got in trouble. I got saved. When I wasn't saved, everybody loved me. But I got saved, and nobody liked the little saved preachy boy. And I got in trouble with the XO, the next in line. I got in trouble with him. Oh, he was so mad with me. You see, I had gotten a dispute, and I was a little smart mouth one. And he said, well, you can't do this, and you're too junior, and you can't do this, and you can't do that. But I had gone to look up the regulations. And I said, well, here, sir, here's the regulations. He said, but that's a provision in there that says you can't get that unless other people got it. I said, I got the names of those Friday we fail. Every Friday we fail. I was running the family practice clinic in Charleston. And he'd come in, and now I had nothing to do. We had janitorial service. This was contract service, wasn't military people. Nothing to do with the way the floor looks. He'd look at the floor and say, the floor is dirty. And so the janitorial people are stripping the deck every week because he didn't like the floor. He'd go in the corners of the drug lockers, and he'd find a little bit of dust in the corner, and we failed. Everything, he looked in the records. If the one form not in the right place, those are the days of paper record, we failed. And he kept, every time he found something, we corrected it. Every time he found something, we corrected it. I was Jonah. They were ready to throw me off the ship. Because sometimes he'd just walk in, and he had a handkerchief like mine. He'd walk in and he'd say, fail. And then in the report, we find out why. Lack of military bearing. He'd put anything down. He had the power to do it. But you know what? When it was over, nobody's department was more organized than ours. He had gone through every record, and we got them put away. He'd gone through the way the deck was, we got that put away. When he was done, there wasn't anything that was out of place. The other departments were mad because now they were being compared to us. A matter of fact, I told you about the floor. When they walked through our department, our floor was white. All the other floors were a little yellow. Because our deck had gotten stripped so much, it was shining white. When you opened the door, it didn't look like anybody else's department. Well, I put in for a school, cardiopulmonary. I put in for respiratory therapy school. And paperwork got filed up. Never left the department. So I put in for they put me in for cardiopulmonary school, which is the program that I run my business out of today. I get to the school, we go to the school, and we're looking at who's there. 10 people out of the Navy and the Army, total. 10 out of the Navy and the Army were selected for that program. 10 out of the whole 2 services. And we're trying to say, well, what's so special? What's so special? What's so special? And we found out that the special thing was that all of us had what they call a flag recommendation. That was the tiebreaker. You know what I'm talking about, brother. Everybody record look alike. What's the difference? You know who wrote mine? That XO. I want to see what he wrote. So I went down and I got it. You know what he said? This sailor was messed up when I met him, but I squared him away. He's the best sailor you can have. That toxic man gave me the business I'm in today. That toxic man. I hope y'all hearing this. Some of you want to run from that toxic personality. You ain't got your stop yet. Oh, wait till you get your stop from here. Then you can go. You wait till you get your promotion. You wait till you get your certification. You wait till you get your credential. And then you can leave that toxic personality. Proverbs 13:22. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children, and the wealth of the sinners are laid up for the righteous. Oh, this was God's plan all along. He planned to give us this. Oh. I hope y'all are marinating. Are you marinating? Point 3. What about out of here? David allowed the Lord to fight his battle. Now, I know we say this all the time, but let me explain it. Let me break it down. Often when we say, let the Lord fight our battle, that means we don't do anything. I said, David allowed. Let me say this. If David had gotten ugly, the Lord couldn't fight his battle. If David had fought back, the Lord couldn't fight his battle. If David had showed his Negroology, the Lord couldn't fight his battle. David had to deal with Saul in a way so that the Lord could fight his battle. That's why the Bible tells us we have to walk the extra mile and turn the other cheek. That's why the Bible tells us to pray for our enemies and to do good to those who despitefully use us. We got to set them up for God to do something in their lives. You know, and that's a big part of growing up. Putting on your grown Christian pants now. When you can walk into that toxic personality and set them up for God. You say, I'm going to show you. You're talking about me. I'm praying for you. I'm going to show you. You think I don't know what you did yesterday? I'm back home. thee thirst, give him drink, for in so doing thou shalt heap coals of fire on his head. That's how you let the Lord fight your battle. Oh, when you start doing good to those who aren't treating you right, you are heaping coals of fire on their head. You know that's the part that the toxic personality can't deal with. They can't deal with you being loving and kind when they're evil and bitter. They can't deal with the fact that with all their toxicity, you're not responding. They can't deal with the fact that you don't go tit for tat or toe to toe with them. That's what messes up their world. You know, staying personality. They can handle this real good. You know, when that angry person's in your face, especially that angry, love, toxic personality, and you can listen to them talk. I shared this with the Bible, said, let them talk and talk and talk. And then when they got so angry, and those who can get red in the face got red in the face, and you stop and say, are you done? That doesn't move me, all that talk. That's the message you send. Are we over now? Do you need to talk some more? I'll stay and let you talk if you need to talk some more, but it doesn't move me. I'm not getting into that. I'm going to let the Lord deal with it. Oh, I think we've done enough with this toxic personality thing. If you think there's some hope, we're going to get into some deeper things in the next few weeks. If you think there's some hope for your relationship, put your hands together and give the Lord a praise. I don't know about you, but I'm excited about where we're going to go with these difficult people. I know about 2 or 3 of them. And I can't wait to get to the end of this sermon series so I can take all this stuff. Take all this stuff. And then be looking back and say, look what you did. And you know, book you need to read. This is by Ron Carpenter. The Blessing of Adversaries. Ron Carpenter said, I learned a little bit from the people who really loved me and cared for me and mentored me. But I learned a whole lot from the people who hated me. I learned more from my enemies than I learned from my friends. I was blessed more by my enemies than I was blessed by my friends. And when you realize there's a blessing in this thing, there's a blessing in it. There's a blessing in me being godly in an ungodly situation. Let me close. I was closing. I don't like 2 and 3 closes, but here's another story to leave us with, military story. The hardest place in the military to work is somebody's same rank. And I worked with a gentleman, same rank. He was senior to me by days. It would have been all right if he had 10 years on me. He was senior by days. And here was the problem. There were only 2 people in the department. He made me do all the grunt work. All the grunt work. And he did all the glory work. And he did it on a ship. If you've ever been on a ship, then listen, that is a lot of grunt work. Cleaning floors and grinding decks. And he put my nose in it. I went to the chief. The chief said, well, he's senior. He's senior. I'm going through this. And this gentleman, it seemed like he just come up with something. Just because we were the same rank. He just come up with something evil to do to me. So we're going into San Diego. We've been out to sea for 9 months. And we've had what they call channel fever, when sailors get close to land. It's probably not that way now, but in those days when you didn't have internet, and you didn't have telephones, and the only mail you got came with a stamp on it, coming in was a big, big deal. And they'd get, so they had insomnia. They couldn't sleep because they're coming in the port. And I'm trying to at least pretend to be sleeping. And they're talking and yakking all night. And that guy is talking, and I heard him say this. He said, there's a lot of folks who say they're Christian. But that John Black, he's a Christian. I threw everything at him. And he never, no, I did talk back. But he said he never talked back. If there's any Christian in the world, John Black is a Christian. And I'm listening to this. He thinks I was asleep. I'm listening to this. We get back to San Diego. Guess who church he joined? John Black. He joined John Black's church. It's amazing what the Lord will do but we didn't fight our battle. Let's give the Lord a prayer.